Welcome to the AgriPod, brought to you by Herdwatch, the #1 farm management app used on over 21,000 farms. Join me, Katie Shanahan, as we bring together top experts in agriculture, influencers and more each month. Uncover invaluable tips and tricks to navigate the agricultural calendar successfully. Engage in insightful discussions and current agricultural issues, all whilst having some fun along the way. Transform your farming journey by downloading the Herdwatch app today and say goodbye to farm paperwork.
I'm nervous, come on, let's go.
Right, so we're going to get started with yet another episode of the AgriPod by Herdwatch. Welcome back. We did one on Tuesday and it was very, very successful. So this is episode 2 live from the Ploughing. So I'm joined here by 3 dairy farmers, so I'm going to be completely out of my depth with knowledge. But we have Fin Walsh from Limerick, Louise Crowley from Limerick, and John Halton from Meath.
Not Limerick. Definitely not Limerick.
He's outnumbered here so by the Limerick people. So just for those of you who might know who they are, we'll start off with you, Fin, if you want to just tell everyone who you are and a little bit about yourself.
Hi lads, so I'm Finn, so I'm a dairy farmer from Limerick. So at home we're milking about 90 cows and a spring calving herd, and I also manage a farm with 260 cows calving autumn and spring. Started my TikTok back in 2020 during COVID, needed something to do, and that's where I started, and ever since I've just grown to that. And at the moment, all I'm doing is working away on the farm and at home, and that's kind of my story as it is.
Thanks, Finn. And Louise, if you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, so I'm Louise Crowley, I'm from Croom in County Limerick. I'm milking 200 cows in partnership with my dad John. Spring calving, it's just the two of us, so pretty simple setup. At home, I suppose I got into social media way back in 2019 after winning a Mocker festival called Queen of the Land, and it kind of just escalated from there. So the aim with it is just to show the everyday ins and outs of dairy farming and the people behind it and everything that goes into it.
Unreal. And finally, last but not least, from Meath.
Had to put my phone on silent there in case Dad was ringing me with a problem. So I'm John Halton from Meath, milk 150 cows at the minute, expanding to 200 cows, all year round calving, looking towards moving totally indoors. I just don't like grass at all. I like seeing big milky cows. I also breed and show pedigree Holsteins across Ireland and the UK. And yeah, that's really it. And I started TikTok there in 2020, same as Finn, bored out my head. Started just, vlogging about what I did, because we do things a lot different. Like, we started buffer feeding cows, which not a lot of people done back then. We've moved totally from a 2-cut system to a 4-cut system, a multi-cut, very intensive, putting up a shed at the minute too, designed for an indoor system. So that's really, mad.
So for anyone that might know, the 3 lads here, they're all into social media and promoting farming online, which is kind of the new thing. It's getting more popular. There's more and more people giving it a go. But I suppose, Finn, yourself, why did you get into it in the first place? So how old are you again?
I turned off the mic. Oh, Jesus Christ. 1, 2. She's on. So I started social media in 2020 during COVID, as I said. The way I started first was I just started putting up videos and got a bit of traction, and then we ended up having a calf born premature and put up a video of her, went a bit viral. People loved it, started getting a bit of traction with that, carried on. And then my big part of it then was that I started to respond to an awful lot of comments that was put onto my page by people that were against the Irish agricultural sector. I'm a big supporter, obviously. I grew up in it, my father's in it. Where I work, all I do every day is dairy farming. So I started to kind of respond and kind of promote Irish dairy farming and show the good sides and what actually goes into the food that everyone's producing and everyone is consuming. So that was where my kind of social media started, and that's kind of what grew into what it is today. Thankfully, as of now, there's not as many comments that are talking very badly about the Irish dairy sector or any sector in the Irish agricultural sector on my page, so I don't have much to do anymore. So I'd post an awful lot less videos, but I still would go out of my way to make sure that anyone who is speaking incorrectly about the Irish dairy sector, the Irish beef sector, pig, or any chicken, I will speak out, I will research, and I will do anything I can to encourage and promote the Irish agricultural sector, because in my opinion it is the best produce that we produce is by Irish farms, in my opinion.
So I was going to say that you're not afraid of a little argument or getting stuck in online if someone says something you're not fond of?
No, I would go out of my way to start an argument. I would, like.
And I suppose the other side of it then, like you said there, you know, you're not just coming back at these comments, you're researching, you're looking into it, and you're giving a good argument online, and everything is valid in what you're saying.
Like, I think most Irish farmers kind of know ourselves, we know our sector, and we know what goes into the produce that we're producing. But I think the misinformation that's online is from people that don't understand the industry and not in the industry. So I think it's a part of people that are in the industry to kind of speak and kind of educate people on what is actually going into the produce that they're eating. So I've done it myself, either with information I've known myself, or I will go out of my way to find information and put it out online, so people can get easy access to the information to know that the food they're consuming is not harmful, and is not harmful to themselves, and is not harmful as much as it's said about the environment. Food that we're consuming, from whether it's beef or dairy, is not as bad for the environment as people are making it out to be. And I think it is very important for farmers to kind of start showing that what we're doing is very, very is a very good thing that we're doing, and we're producing very good produce in a very environmentally friendly way. And it should be the bad press that we have about farming should be kind of stamped out, in my opinion.
Louise, I might just come to you there. Finn was on about the misconceptions in farming. So being so active on social media, you kind of open yourself up to, you know, getting the odd comment, or, you know, someone mightn't agree with what you're doing. What are some of the misconceptions you've realised that are out there because of people, you know, either coming onto your social media and making these comments? So what would be some of the big misconceptions in your opinion?
Well, I suppose there's a huge misunderstanding, I suppose, to how seriously farmers take the environment and sustainability nowadays. You know, it's such a buzzword at the moment, and it's constantly thrown at farmers. But at the end of the day, the farmer is the caretaker of the land. You know, farms are an extension of our homes, so we're always doing our utmost to do the best, whatever practice we're doing, or anything we're going to change. We're constantly investing. You know, I think there's a big misconception that, you know, big dairy farmer, 200 cows, loads of money. You know, I'm not afraid to be honest and show on social media, like, there isn't a lot of money there. If you're farming where we are at the moment, we had a bad year last year, an early wet winter, you know, a late wet spring. Just fodder was such a massive issue, which led to huge financial pressures. We are now unfortunately in a drought where I am, so I'm 8 weeks into my silage pit already. I'm buying silage in, buying in meal to stretch it. So, like, finances are a massive struggle. But yet, every week, I get messages going, but sure, you've loads of cows, so you have to have loads of money. You know, what's the issue? So it's so important to get the realities out there of what farmers are struggling. You know, they see the big tractor or the new shed or whatever, but that's probably all on borrowed money. Like, you know, there's nobody has it in their back pocket to just do it straight away.
Yeah, I can see that argument, all right. And John, for you, have you plenty money now?
No, I do not. Funny enough, we're behind the AIB stand, where, you know, we probably support the AIB stand, you know. So yeah, no, definitely
They're the
not.
ones with the money.
They are the ones with the money, not us. We give them our money.
And for you then, what in your opinion, have you anything extra to add in terms of misconceptions in farming, or for your in terms of even your own personal life?
No, I think the two of them hit the nail on the head, really. Like, yeah, I really think, that's really, I don't think I've anything to add to that.
Would you be open for an argument yourself online, or do you tend to leave them off?
Mellow, just, you know, just maybe a little bit, but not too much. Just
So-
enough to get a kick, and then once that kick's over, I just move on.
You spoke there at the start how you know your system is slightly different at home, and you did go to college in Harper, wasn't it?
Yeah, Harper Adams in
So
England.
tell me a little bit about that journey. Why did you decide to go to Harper? And you know, what maybe have you learned along the way that you're trying to bring home into your own farm that is different?
So I went over to Harper Adams, which is in Shropshire in England. I just kind of felt that I was always going to come home and farm, and I wanted to see something different before I made that final leap, where I am now. Went over there. I loved my bigger cows when I was younger. I loved big Holstein cows, and in Ireland there wasn't really an agricultural college with that same style of farming. So I went over to England and wanted to learn how they do dairying, which is very different. Like they have your grazing cow, but they're on average, and they're doing a lot better than we are. Like more litres, more milk solids, as a country average, if you know what I mean. Went over there, learned an awful lot. Probably learned more outside the classroom, which is a weird one to comprehend. I worked a lot on farms. Lectures wasn't too fond of it when I failed a few classes, but I worked a lot on farms and learned a lot from the farmers over there, and great farmers. Like everywhere else, you have good farmers, you have bad farmers. I was probably fortunate enough to get in with a band of real good farmers. So I milked on a 3 times a day system over there. I love that system. Multi-cut, 4 or 5 cuts a year, which we're implementing now at the minute. We're doing our 4th cut in 3 weeks' time. So just how to manage overall Holstein cows in general and the nutrition. So yeah.
And then and on the whole topic of, you know, bringing in these new practices to your farms, you're all young people. I might start with you, Finn, because I know you're managing another farm at home. Do you plan on going home, or is it the case that there's another brother or sister there, maybe ahead of you in the line, and you're trying to make something for your own?
Well, that hasn't been really discussed yet. Like, sensitive topic. I have 2 brothers, one older, one younger. My older brother is training to be an ag engineer. My younger brother, I don't know. I don't know what he's doing, to be quite honest. I went off. We don't have a massive farm at home. There isn't a massive kind of area we can expand into. We do have land we could expand, but it's just not a lot of our land is secured in terms of lease and stuff like that. So there would be a worry for the future at our home place. But down the line we will discuss it. For at the moment, I have no problem where I am. I'm managing away. We're a completely different system, much like John. We're autumn and spring calving, so we're calving about 50 cows in the autumn time, and we're calving 210 cows in the springtime. So at the moment we've about 25% of our autumn herd is calved at the moment, which does keep you moving all year round, whereas on a normal farm you'll be finished. Coming into winter you kind of quieten down and you'll be able to kind of just ease back, whereas when you're calving all year round we'll still have about 100 cows milking by the end of the year. Now it's a lot of work, but at the same time I'd rather that than to be calmed down, because I'd struggle myself to get back into the work in springtime. But it is a brilliant thing to learn, kind of, because I'm learning a lot more now about the diet. So like at home we'd only feed silage, we put minerals on top of it. That is how we've done it for years and years, and we won't change it. And no matter how much you say to the father, that won't change. But then I'm outside there and you're learning more about different things that are going into the feed and what they do, like in terms of they provide energy, they provide protein, what they're doing to the milk, to the cow, and why you're doing certain things, what minerals you're adding and why you're adding them. So I'm learning an awful lot. Like I went to college and stuff like that, like I found that beneficial, but learning these different things about minerals and all these kind of things about cows and the potential of cows in terms of their yields and what they can produce when you just feed them right. But down the line I would hope to go home and maybe bring some other kind of an enterprise into the farm, whether that is set up a vending machine or something like that, because we are very close to Limerick City, so it would be ideal to kind of set up some kind of maybe a farm shop or something along those lines, just to bring more people in and kind of, I suppose, increase the profit on a lower herd. Because as kind of everyone kind of knows, it's kind of the kind of idea is now get bigger, get out, is kind of the way people are going. There's not many big farmers, and it is scary to think of down the line, because if we have to reduce the herd any further, we will be in trouble in terms of trying to keep and sustain ourselves. So trying to kind of incorporate a different enterprise might be the only way we can go.
Yeah. So, you know, you're eager to obviously go home, like you said on Tuesday in the last episode, which we recorded. It was a kind of a common theme that the succession and everything around succession and having that conversation with your parents is kind of like a touchy subject.
Yeah.
In a lot of, and it's a common theme around Ireland in general, that they tend to, you know, the average age of the farmer is getting a little bit older. Do you think that's something that, you know, we should be maybe introducing the conversation in the family a little bit sooner?
Yeah, well, like I see it there, like in my area, there's an awful lot of farmers that don't have someone in succession, like they don't have someone that's going to take it over. And I don't know whether it's that it was pushed too hard on them, and they were they were pushed away from it, because I know my father didn't want any of us to farm. He wanted us all to leave, and he was very happy if all of us went off and none of us wanted to farm. But then we done the opposite, and all of us wanted to farm. So now he doesn't know which is the better way to do, whether
There's a struggle there.
Yeah,
now.
so some people probably want their sons to take it over and their sons want nothing to do with it, and then there's other people don't want their sons to go near the place and they all want it. So succession, it's a scary thought in terms of like how old the farming generation is at the moment, but there is an awful lot of farmers want to take it on. But at the same time, like some people are struggling to kind of be very, very clear with the people that they're meant to succeed them, to say, okay, this is what's going to happen in the future. A future plan is probably the best thing that farmers need, so that I suppose the people that are coming after can plan their own life as well. Like I'm 24 now, I'm still young, but at the same time it'd be nice to kind of know what the steps are that my father, like, you know, if my father was able to give me some kind of a roadmap into when he would like to kind of step back a small bit himself, so I could kind of know when I'm coming home and I could go off and do a few bits, so I know that, okay, after this time he would like to step back a small bit and put a bit more time into, I suppose, retirement. Now, whether he retire, that's beyond me.
Again, touchy subject.
Yes.
And then, Louise, I suppose your situation is different. You know, you're young yourself and you're farming at home in partnership with your dad. So was that something that was always going to be the case in terms of, you know, sibling rivalry with the farm? You know, were you the only one interested?
Yeah, so I'm lucky I was the only one that was interested, but I grew up listening to neighbours and everyone saying to Dad, going, oh geez, God help him, 3 daughters, nobody will want the farm, you know, or he'll have to find someone to marry him that'll manage it. But I was very lucky growing up that Dad was very much of the mind, if you wanted to do it and you were capable of doing it, he had no reason, you know, not to throw you in at the deep end. So like I grew up milking cows, driving tractors. It was no different to me. It was only when I kind of went to college and afterwards you realise, geez, there isn't very many women that are doing this, because I was in my own bubble where everything was, you know, normal. But Dad was very progressive about that. Very early on it was sat down that if I wanted to get into this, you know, when Dad was farming on his own, we had 72 cows. We realised that wouldn't be enough to have 2 families getting an income out of the place. So it was spelled out, if I was going to Ag College, my sisters needed to know what the plan was going to be. They had no interest. So we've had a plan pretty much since I was 17 or 18 as to how the farm was actually going to go and what our succession was. So I went to college in Pallaskenry, I went on to CIT in Cork, and I got my travelling done in New Zealand and whatnot and came home. And when I was home then it was pretty much full steam ahead. I wasn't going anywhere again. But I have been very lucky with Dad. He's always been open to ideas and bringing things back. Grass measuring, not so much. That was about the biggest, touchiest thing we had, where he was like, for God's sake, I've always had grass in front of the cows, what are we on about? And there would have been a few days where, you know, I was told, if this goes wrong, this is your baby. But I think it's a balance, you know. You have to try and bring something new to a place too, but you have to appreciate what's gone before you as well. But I think things are changing. There's a lot more women getting involved, you know. 13% of farms at the moment are in females' names. Unfortunately, a lot of that is due to being widowers. But it is changing, and this idea that the farm has to stay in the family name is gone out the window in a lot of places too. You know, a lot of farms are giving them their own name now. You know, so we put a name on our farm, and it stopped that family name debate fairly quickly.
Love it. Love to hear that. And John, you know, the kind of common theme here is that you're bringing in your own ideas. Was the farm that you're currently on right now, was it open to the idea of bringing in these new practices, or was there a little bit of a, oh sure, this is how we've always done it now, and I don't think we should be changing it up, you know, and the whole idea that when you they only went to college now, so they're thinking they know it all now. Was there a bit of that, or was it fairly open to the idea of all these new improvements?
No, to be fair now to my father, he was always very open. There was many's a time that he thought about selling the farm and moving to Russia or China to farm. Like that'd be just him. He'd do it in a heartbeat if he was a lot younger. But we settled down a bit more, and probably the biggest change, and he's stood there at the other side, is that we did discuss about getting grass measured. And Joey, you had to be brought into it. So he measures. I have no interest in grass, so he does all our grass measuring. And he tells us if cows are too tight or too take out paddocks. And normally we have too much grass, and he's still giving out. But no, to be fair, my father would be very open, and yeah, we've been always farming Holsteins, breeding international sires for the last 25 years. So it was always something that, yeah, we kind of always thought about going this route. So he was just glad that I didn't put Jersey Cross across the whole herd. I think he would have shot me.
I might touch a little bit there on mental health. Is that something, I'm going to ask you all kind of a general question in terms of mental health in not only rural Ireland but farmers in general, and especially men, because obviously it's men where we see the highest rates of suicide, and it's in farming. So what are your thoughts around that, John? Do you think, you know, is there enough support there for farmers? Because it's been a tough few months, even tough few years, and it seems there's more and more restrictions coming down on top of you.
To be honest, I do think that there is probably a bit more work to be done on the mental health side. Like, I do understand, like, you're in the yard, especially a one-man operation, one-man band. You're in the yard, you don't get to see anyone by your wife, and if you're not married, you come home to an empty house and you have to cook and clean yourself. So yeah, I do think there has to be kind of a bit more work done, and a bit more kind of, what's the best word to use for it, like more engagement around it, but it has definitely improved. I'm fortunate enough that I actually have an off-farm job as well. I'm a content creator with Grassmen, so one day a week I'm up in the north, so it kind of gets me out, and then I've the social media side, which very much helps as well. So yeah, it's all a help.
Yeah, and I might just jump across to Finn. I'll come back to you, Louise, in a second. What are your thoughts on it, Finn? Because I know you speak out about it a lot as well on social media, and you try to kind of break that taboo around it.
Yeah, so I've been very open about it. I've discussed it an awful lot on my page. So from the very beginning, when I started putting up videos, there was a lot of young lads from 13, 14, 15 up along that have messaged me about, because I've always put up videos about kind of just being, trying to break a stigma that is out there. And whatever it is about a stigma in terms of men's mental health and mental health in general, mental health within farming is probably an even bigger stigma. I put up a video last week was Suicide Prevention Day, and I put up a video, and I was astonished by the amount of people that I said it at the end of the video. I said anyone that would like to message me, my messages are open, and I was astonished by the amount of people that messaged me. And there was people from 13 all the way up now and all the way up as far as 2022, and it astonished me how many people messaged me, and the comments as well that were under the video. So I'm very, very clear on what that it is a problem within Irish farming, and there is the amount of time between the weather, prices, and now we've regulations on top of everything like that. You've EU regulations that are catching farmers and just squeezing every bit out of them. And when farmers are there and you're looking out of the farm, and you're wondering how are we going to have any bit of a future in this place when the EU regulations are absolutely ruining the place. So we'll see. We'll have to kind of put more emphasis on farmers kind of being more open to talking and kind of improving themselves down the line, because the suicide rates, 23% of Irish farmers are at risk of suicide, which is a staggering number. And I think, in fairness, the Irish government and agricultural organisations should do more to kind of, whether it is kind of offering some kind of a support or something like that for just farmers alone, because the Irish farming industry is a big industry, and for a quarter of your industry to be suffering that badly is staggering.
Do you think it's much easier for the young person nowadays to actually want to go out and ask someone for help, as opposed to the older farmer who might just say, oh look, it comes with the job, or we just need to get on with it or get over ourselves?
Oh yeah, like you see, like the amount of times that there's instances like where people down, like older people, and it's just financial troubles or stuff like that, like, and it's just a strain that goes on them. And then there's young people in that there could be all sorts of instances, because the young mind is still developing, like, and if you're not taking care of it, or if there is anything going on that's putting strain on your mental health, it can seem like it's 10 times or 100 times worse than it actually is. And as everyone kind of says, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and it should be very, very clearly spoken about that it shouldn't be a solution. Like, it needs to be, like, there are so many other ways to talk. Like, I've gone and I've spoken to people, and I've gone to professionals, like, and it's completely normal, because I'd rather go in and do that than do something stupid, because it's, in my opinion, it is, I would rather fix it than do something I would regret.
Yeah. And I might come to you there, Louise, because you're the current county chair of Limerick MACRA. So MACRA is a rural youth organisation, so it's great for not only people in farming, but young people in general. Out in rural Ireland it can be very, very tough. So just talk to me a little bit about MACRA and what you think it brings to the table in terms of a little support there for people, because it's not just all about the activities and the sports and the competitions. There's connections made there and friendships made.
Yeah, look, I describe MACRA as a family, really. It's what it is. And the more you get involved in it, the more that you actually will get out of it personally yourself. While we do have sports, drama, farm skills, stock judging, there's everything under the sun that you could give an evening to, but it's a group of people, your own age group, the same mentality. They're all in your own area, so they're probably facing the same challenges as well. And it's just a really open environment. MACRA is very positive. I would say it's the most positive out of all the farm organisations. You know, you can bring a problem to the table, but bring a solution. It mightn't be the right one, but you'll never get knocked for it. You know, you'll trash it out and workshop it, but there's always somebody there. But MACRA was very quick in acknowledging the issue of mental health in young farmers. And former President John Keane, unfortunately, they saw a spike in suicide in Tipperary among their friends. So they took it on themselves to set up Make the Move. So it's a mental health charity within the organisation. And they got lots of us signed up, and we did training to be able to recognise signs and people in help, and just be able to have those conversations. It was recently relaunched last year under the current president, Elaine Houlihan, and it's staggering the amount of people that are ringing the phone lines at the moment. The helpline was set up that people had a point of contact. Elaine herself will say it has now become a callback service because so many people are ringing, needing help at the moment. But like, it's great that they're ringing, and it's great that they recognised that, you know, there is counsellors, there's therapists out there, but they're not always going to understand a fodder crisis, bad weather, financial pressures in farming. So Make the Move went out and got and hired counsellors from rural Ireland, from farming backgrounds, that will understand what the person is saying on the other end of the line. But it's not just young people. While I'm very involved in MACRA, I'm also County Secretary in Limerick IFA, and it's a total different age group of farmers. You know, I'm probably the youngest by a good 20 odd years there, but it's the same problems, and as you say, they're a lot more reluctant to come out and talk about things. So what we find is we bring the likes of Elaine and Make the Move into our meetings every couple of months, get her to have a chat about how things are kind of affecting young people. Don't really aim it at them, but you'd be amazed. Every time we talk about it, I'll hear afterwards, there's 8 or 9 of those farmers are after reaching out for help. You know, it's just staggering the amount of people that actually do need help. And like, we only see the numbers that are reaching out. We don't know actually how many aren't vocalising it.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a stigma, but I think with the joint forces of everything, all the services, even yourself speaking about it openly online, will definitely help. John, I might come to you there because you've a lot of side hustles, obviously you'd call them. You're a hustling man. So tell everyone a little bit about your all presenting gigs there, and what made you even want to get into them in the first place?
I just think I love hardship for the love of it. All these things happen and probably happen for a reason. So we're milking 152 and going to 200 cows at home. I used to work for a crowd called Agri-Insider. This spring I moved to Grassmen, so a lot of people would have heard of Grassmen agricultural videos. Now we're going to be bringing more farming content to the table. And yeah, everything just happens for a reason. I was down at an open day in Hoyes in North County Dublin, and I got chatting to Gareth, so ended up doing that, and you could find me anywhere. So between that, the social media and farming, it's just, you just keep
All
going.
go.
You just don't stop. You probably don't have time to even think. Like, there's times there, especially during the spring, when you'd be doing other things and trying to get paddocks ready and let cows out, that you could be working from, we'd start in the morning, try and get revved up at half 5 in the morning, and you could get finished at 10, 11 o'clock. And then with the showing as well, that's a wholly different ball game. I started going showing this year. I was over at UK Dairy Day and was showing Guernseys. And Guernseys, for anyone who doesn't know, is a cross between nearly like your Jersey cow crossing Ayrshire and real just small. So we got reserve champion with that particular cow, and I was given a hand, and they're just long hours. And then I was showing in Belgium there about 3 weeks ago too, in the European Young Breeder School with IHFA and the YMA. That was another different ball game altogether. So it's just, yeah, it's very different. I could be anywhere, and you just keep working. No sleep, keep going.
I might finish up there shortly, but there's one question I want to ask you all. I'm probably going to catch you on the hop now, but that's the beauty of it. So this can be either personal to yourselves, or you can go big and say agriculture as a whole. So if you were to change something about either agriculture, something at home, or something you want to change, what would it be and why?
I have to think about that one.
Pass it on to Louise there. I'll give you a minute to think.
Louise?
I'll save you. I think the biggest thing that I would change is both agricultural and it affects personally, just the strain that it puts on farmers, would be EU and governmental policy. Really, I'm one of those farmers that is hugely impacted by the nitrates directive and the derogation cuts. We work so hard to get to a point with our herd, and we didn't want to keep expanding and going. We said we had a nice number of animals and wanted to do that as efficient as possible, and next thing we just get slated really, and we're told you have to get rid of 27 cows that we didn't want to, which is huge when you have borrowings based on a certain herd size and things like that. But yes, it's just policy comes in and it's too late usually when it gets brought to farm organisations or down to the actual farmers and grassroots. I'll tie in with policy. Farm organisations need to be more proactive too, and actually go back to grassroots and listen to the farmers. While I'm very involved in Machra, I was on Ag Affairs for several years. They are very proactive, but unfortunately young farmers are a minority, so we don't have a huge voice, but they do use the voice that they have. The IFA is such a huge organisation, but I think they need to get a younger voice into it, get the people that these changes, policy changes, are going to be affecting for the next 20, 30 years, not the people that are looking at their retirement plans and getting out. So that it's a change that would affect all of agriculture, but it would make our lives personally an awful lot easier.
That was a good answer. Finn, yourself, if you were to change one thing, are you going big now in terms of agriculture? Is this something closer to home?
Well, I'll follow it, Louise. I'll just replicate that. That's outside. That's farming as a whole. Personally, now, if I was changing anything about farming, I'd change the name on my farm from my father's to mine, and then we'll increase the herd and put in a bigger parlour and milk the absolute life out of the cows, and we'll start feeding them and get a diet feeder. And there's one of the boys back there now, and them boys are all drum feeders. I want a Keenan. And they'll give out to me now when I finish this, because they've given me some amount of grief all day about this social media stuff, and they've been slapping me on the back if anyone says hello to me. And so that's all I would change in terms of, like, Louise has hit it on the nail on the head there now. It's just regulations. Like, regulations and all that is just, like, if we could just ease up a small bit on farm, like, because at the end of the day, we're producing food, everyone needs a farmer 3 times a day, every day, the whole year. Like, we don't need, like, there's a lot of other things we don't need every day. But, like, if farmers just decided in the morning not to produce food anymore, you can't eat the plate. Like, if you need something, like, you need something on the plate, like. So I think farmers, like, they should be more promoted to produce the food and feed the growing population of the world than told that you need to grow it in a more, like, we're growing a very, very good product in a very environmentally friendly way. And then all we're told is that, oh, you're polluting the rivers. Where I'm working below, there is a raw sewage pipe going straight into the river that is flowing straight into the Shannon River. Like, that is a disgrace, like. And it's the farmers upstream then that are being blamed for it. And it's a big town. Like, they're not flushing water down them pipes. Like, plain and simple. And it's us that's being blamed for it. So I think farmers, just the regulations on farmers need to reduce the small bit, and we need to be kind of promoted to produce a better product and just paid better for it. Because, like, we can't do all these regulations, all these changes they want us to do if we're not paid a good enough amount of money to do it. Like, they want us to reduce the herd, but they don't want to subsidise us to be making the same amount of money. So it's like, drop all a certain amount of cows. Okay, how am I going to make the money back? Oh, you're not. So it's like, okay, so I'm going to be killing off 30 of my cows, but I get nothing for it. Oh yeah, but in EU. It's like, I was still able to produce the same amount of milk. I was still able to feed them 30 cows. I was able to produce milk out of them, and I was feeding more people, and more people were getting fed out of it, and no. But I physically can't understand how farmers know better about how their land is run than anyone else outside. But it's people inside in suits and people inside in cabinets and people that are up in the Dáil and over in Brussels or whatever that are telling a farmer that's there, might be in the south, the west, the north, or anywhere else in this country, that are telling people this is how you have to run your farms. But my farm is a lot different to people over in Brussels. My farm is an awful lot different to people down south, up north, and over east. My farm is my farm, and I should know exactly how to do it. And it shouldn't be anyone else to tell me that, oh, the cows that you were able to feed there last year and get the milk out of, you're not allowed them next year. And even though the methane goes up into the sky and after 10 years comes down and goes into the ground and grows grass again, still my cows are producing more harmful gas than the people that are flying off on their cheap flights off over to Lanzarote or whatever. And it's like, oh, we need to send more tourists, bring more tourists in and do all that. Well, there's no point in bringing tourists in if you can't feed them. But sure, that's the way we're going. Like, they just want to reduce everything and just absolutely just regulate the hell out of farming until eventually there's going to be no farmers left, and farmers are just going to be covered in solar panels or wind farms or whatever else, and you won't see a cow, you won't see a sheep, you won't see anything inside them fields. And I think that is the saddest thing about Irish agriculture at this stage.
Yeah, I completely agree there. And do you know, for such a young person in agriculture, you're so aware of all the hardship that's ahead of you.
Yes.
But you're still so optimistic and passionate about the sector.
Oh yeah, but like, it's eventually someone has to wake up and smell the daylight like that. Oh crap, we don't have food. Like, eventually when the shelves start to get empty and people are starting to kind of going, why is food costing a fortune? And they realise, because farmers have been slashed to absolute hell for the last I don't know how many years because they wanted to meet a carbon target that we're not going to hit. Because you've China over the other side of the world that is still all they're going to do is just going to produce more milk and produce everything else and do everything more than anyone else in this entire world is going to do. But this small little island that we have here, that we're producing some of the best dairy, the best beef and the best produce in the entire world, we're the problem. This little small island that's just off the side of the UK, we're the problem. And you have the massive industrial countries like China and all these different countries that are just burning coal and just putting an awful lot of pollutants up into the air, and they'll just do more and more and more and more and more of that. But let's get them boys. Oh, that farm there with 90 cows. Get them to kill off 20 cows, and let's just slash their profits to hell. Because why not? Because we're going to hit our carbon targets. We're going to hit this. We're going to hit that. We're going to hit everything. No, I think it is the stupidest thing that is proposed. Because I don't understand how anyone sees that this little small island that is producing beautiful food should have to reduce the amount of food we're producing. Because someone over in the EU is saying, this is the amount of carbon that you're allowed to emit. Even though the food that we're producing is going straight back down into the ground to grow more grass.
I agree. And then, John, would you have a similar type of mindset in terms of what is a priority on your list and things you change, or is it completely different?
No, to be fair, the two now hit the nail on the head, especially Finn. That was a great speech.
That was passion.
You should be up in the Dáil. Oh, here's the guards. Well, he'll bring you up to the Dáil and you say that in the Dáil. After the summer recess. You'd be barred at the door. No, to be fair, like they hit the nail on the head, and there is a lot of regulations out there on the nitrates. We don't know what way that's going to go. That's the elephant in the room. So we'll see. We're fortunate we've designed a system that if it does come, it's not going to bother us too much. We'll just have to export slurry, which we have that slurry to export, which Louise, you're a spring calf and you don't have that slurry. So that's really why we designed this system. We really wanted to future-proof the herd. Probably going forward, we're in the middle of putting up a shed at the minute. We've started putting on the heat guard roof, so that's going on it now today. And a parlour we'll need, and then we look at maybe keeping it 2 times a day, 11,000 litres of cow, 800 or 900 kilos of milk solids, or try and push it up to 3 times a day milking, and push it up towards more 1,000 kilos of solids, which can be done in Ireland. There's a good few farms doing it, or we look at robots. So, and then the future, you just don't know what's going to come down the line. I used to work for Dairy Master, sales rep, and you'd hear what companies have out there, and you just don't know what's going to get approved and what's not, and the whole AI thing. And yeah, look, it's interesting times ahead for farming though. Like, I definitely wouldn't be scared of it. A lot of people would be kind of, agriculture's doomed. It's not doomed. There's a bright future ahead. We just don't know what technologies are going to come down the line to assist us in any sort of way. So that's really it. And keep farming and keep her late.
That was a nice optimistic finish there. Before we finish, does anyone have any questions they want to ask the lads? Or anyone have anything? No, we're all good. Can everyone put their hands together, please, for our panellists today? I must say they were brilliant. Thanks very much for taking the time out of your day to come speak with us here at Herdwatch. And make sure everyone listening to tune in to our next episode of the AgriPod. Thank you.
This podcast was brought to you by Herdwatch. Download the Herdwatch app today to eliminate farm paperwork and make better decisions with your farm in your hand. I hope you enjoyed this month's AgriPod by Herdwatch. Tune in next month where we will have another special guest in store. Bye!